Good morning and welcome to the Sunday Symposium. Our speaker today is Iris Harrell. Iris is a well-known resident of Oakmont. She seems to be responsible for constructing virtually anything that happens here. And one of her areas of specialty has been understanding how we can best protect our home from wildfires. While we don't necessarily want to think a lot about it, the truth of the matter is come the fall, there is a risk of wildfires in our area, and the more we can do to reduce the risk, the better. So with that in mind, Iris, it's yours.
Thank you, George. Hello, all you folks sheltering in place, in home. This is a good time to be looking around your home. Since we have time on our hands and no place to go, it's a good time to look around your home and work on some wildfire protection issues because, as you know, wildfire season is around the corner. This PowerPoint program was developed by 30 Oakmont Rainbow women in 2018 and 2019. It was 1 year after the 2017 fire and forced evacuation that my wife, Ann Benson, and Katie Carroll looked at each other and asked, have you done anything to prepare for the next fire emergency? It had been 12 months after the evacuation. Ann said no. And so they decided that we really did need to get our community to work on this, and we needed to get off our butt and quit being afraid to even think about it and start working on it. So we got over the shell shock, and 30 women got together and decided that we would develop our own program for fire protection. So here is what the 30 women came up with, and I was on the team that developed the preparation plans for the exterior of the house and the 0 to 5 foot zone, which is as you exit your house for the first 5 feet. So the wind-blown embers that you see in this picture, it's like flying bullets, and they are the major cause of 2/3 of wildfire destruction. Any little place these embers can get in are a threat to your home as a physical structure. So we're going to be looking at very small openings. The other thing, defensible space, making your home defensible, we have to remember that we are in what's called the WUI zone, the Wildlife Urban Interface location. And pretty much that means that we are between forests and regional wooded parks on both sides of us as we reside in this beautiful Valley of the Moon. So it's very nice up until wildfire season when we have to be on high alert. We live in a more dangerous zone than some other people, and your home could be a major fuel source. So let's start at the top. Homes are fuel. Fires choose houses over plants because they're dry wood mostly. Let's start at the roof. That is the top priority that you should be looking at. Hopefully you don't have a wood shingle roof. Unfortunately, those are still allowed. I don't think they're allowed in this area, but I've seen a lot of them in Silicon Valley. Composition roofs, which is what this picture is, are a good choice, particularly if they have a longer life, 40 years. 40 years means it's thicker, so you have more protection as heat is on it. Aesthetically, if you get something with an irregular tab and a multicolor, it not only does the job, it looks a little better. So the other thing that roofs have are what are called eyebrow vents. And roofs have to breathe. You'll see in the lower right hand picture of this that you have to be able to breathe. The roof has to be able to breathe from the bottom of the eaves up to the top of the ridge. If it doesn't, you get condensation, which leads to dry rot and mold, and that creates other health issues. So the eyebrow vents that you have, you want to make sure that they meet the WUI standards, the Wildland Urban Interface standards, which means the holes are smaller. So just have that checked out. If you have really old ones, then they might not meet today's standards, and they're easy to change out if you get a roofer to do that. The other priority is your gutters, your gutter guard. First of all, you should have a gutter guard, and it must be an effective one. There are a lot of gutter guards that are being sold that aren't good. Actually, they're very good for helping the leaves make paste on top of the gutter guard, and then the water just flows out and not into the gutter, and you still have dried leaves on top. So you want to get one that really works. Uh, Water has to get in it, and the leaves have to wash off. This is one from my house that I think works incredibly well. But to have no gutter guard at all is actually the worst problem, because dried leaves get in there, and when they get in there, they're the perfect kindling for these flying embers. So in the Fountain Grove area, the homes, there were quite a few homes there that really, the fire started from the dried leaves in the gutter. The fire then went under the roof tab into the plywood underlayment, and then just burned from the inside. So that's keeping your gutters and your roof clean, even from debris, is also a really critical situation. Now, the other thing you want to do going on other parts of the house is the foundation vents. Again, the foundation vents are there because you have to have airflow, and especially in these older homes, to avoid mold and condensation under the crawl space. So the old vent holes, you'll see this picture on the left, are too large. They're 1/4 of an inch. And wildfire embers can easily enter the crawl space in high winds and smolder into a bigger fire, because a lot of people also have debris in their crawl space on the dirt. So you also want to make sure your crawl space is clean and doesn't have debris or anything there that would be fuel for fire. Because this again causes the house to burn from the inside out. Louvered vents, which is the one on the right, with 1/8 inch screen behind it, are an economical way to get these changed out very quickly. You can get them at any lumber yard, and they're not that expensive. They have some very expensive ones that you can buy that are like $25 a piece. These are like $7 a piece, or $6, something like that. Also, another place that the house vents in the attic is called a gable vent. And if you have a ridge roof, peak with a peak, you probably have some gable vents. And if you do, you want to make sure that there's some wire mesh behind that gable vent that is only of 1/8 of an inch opening, so that you can prevent flying embers from going in. Remember that these high winds bring these little pieces of flying, burning rice, the size of rice, that can get into these places. The other thing is, if you're at any point thinking about changing your siding, and that would be an expensive endeavor. I just wanted you to know about this product. It's hardy siding. It's made of concrete. It's been around for many years, and it paints and looks like wood. It comes in lots of different shapes. But if you're not changing your siding, I kept my siding because it is an expensive endeavor. You want to make sure that your siding is painted. It's well painted. It's not dried from the sun. So that, because when wood gets dried like that, you start to get little wood splinters that start to appear, and of course that is also fuel for fire. Okay, the other thing about what we call the 0 to 5 foot zone, from the exterior of your house, as you exit the house and you go 5 feet, what is there that could burn? So the 5 foot zone is the most critical after you fix the roof and these vents. So this is a picture of the side of my house, and you'll see that there's a sidewalk, which is good. It's fire resistant. You'll see that there's concrete. The wood siding is not all the way down to the ground. You'll see that there's rock to the left in the side yard to the fence, even though there are some plants. Those are fire resistant plants. I had those changed out actually. And then you'll see AZAC deck. There's a ramp to get up to the hot tub, and that is so that you can avoid any steps. Our house was remodeled to be ADA compliant, so we didn't want any steps. This ramp, AZAC, is one of the Class A fire resistant materials for deck materials. Okay, so the eaves, the eaves are where the roof extends beyond the side of the house. And you'll see 2 pictures here of the one on the right, that's my house, that has good caulk where these different pieces of wood meet. And you'll see one on the left that hadn't been painted in many years, and it needs a lot of caulk. As a matter of fact, the spaces are so big that it needs more than caulk. It actually needs a closed soffit, which I'll show you. Here's an example of a closed soffit. This is over at Central. If you look up, you probably haven't looked up, but there's plywood soffit with a breathing metal ventilation. Even if you have just an 18-inch overhang, you can do a closed soffit with a hardy siding material, which is made of concrete, which can't burn. Okay, another priority is what type of windows and doors that you have. A lot of people are upgrading their windows, and if they do, they should really be thinking about almost all homes require dual glazing now, which means 2 layers of glass with an air pocket in between. It's not only good for temperature control in your house in the winter and summer, it's more fire resistant, which is another reason to have dual glazed windows and doors. And clad windows and doors. Clad means there is a wrap on the outside. Metal clad is actually the best because, first of all, there's no wood that you have to keep from deteriorating, and metal is a slower burn material than wood itself. Marvin windows and Pella windows have very good choices in metal clad, and they have different levels of expense. One's more expensive than others, so you can get some of their lower cost ones. Another issue that we have participated in to help our house, actually we started out getting these European rolling shutters. You'll see that brown horizontal thing that covers the window. It's with a remote control. It's made of rolled aluminum, and this adds a layer of fire protection. I made sure that when we evacuated in 2017 that all the ones that we had were down. We don't have them for all windows. We actually purchased them for sun protection because our house is situated in the east and west direction, so that in the summer it looks like you have to wear sunglasses in the house sometimes, and in the morning, depending on the position of the sun. And the west sun, of course, gets very hot, and Anne did not want her office to be hot in the late afternoon. In Europe, the reason they're called European rolling shutters, they first started in Europe, and Europeans used them for actually keeping out the cold winters and also for theft protection. But they have in California, they've been used more for sun and heat protection, but they are also fire protection. Okay, so choices on decks and fence railings and guardrails. Most people around here have decks, and many of your deck boards are not maybe in the best condition. If they're old and you're going to replace them, please consider AZEK or Trex. I do not have stock in either one of these, so I'm not. This is not a conflict of interest. This is really about creating something that is less likely to burn. AZEK, not all of AZEK products are grade A fire resistant. Some of them are grade B. Trex products are all grade B, but at least they are more fire resistant than redwood. And I actually believe that this AZEK deck, which was here actually before we moved here, which is why we kept with the material, at my house right after I returned from 2017, there was a leaf imprint, a burned leaf imprint with all of the veins right outside of my office on this deck. And also a lot of holes in my screen from the flying embers. But it just made me think, and you know, the thing about inside corners, this deck is inset into the house. Inside corners are where flying embers collect. And so this is really something for you to consider. The guardrail, you can see that we have as mostly wire in between with big, huge wood 4x4 posts. The thing about wood is if it's stained, it's not dry, and if it's a bigger piece, it's a slower burn, so it's less likely to become a fire. So So that was the reason we chose that railing. So just think about what your choices are of materials that are more fire resistant. You'll also notice that the table and chairs on here are metal on this deck. On the right, you'll see a picture of a hose. We had hose bibs put at every side of the house when we did the remodel, and you should have a hose connected there. You never know when you might need it. You never know if the fire people showing up might need it. Fortunately, outside of my house, I have one of those fire hydrants that the firemen choose to tie into. But and actually, that kind of helped me sleep on the nights of 2017 as the house and the fire came within 1 mile of our house. Another safety issue that people aren't aware of is that a lot of fires in houses, whether it's during a fire season or not, are caused by electrical panels. And a lot of the older electrical panels that people have are not only inadequate for fire safety, some of them are no longer sold because of their fire danger. So you should have your electrical panel inspected and make sure that the electrical panel is grounded. That's a critical thing because a lot of houses will burn related to one of the biggest fire jobs that we did when I was with Harrell Remodeling, my company in Silicon Valley, was a house that burned, a severe, huge burn because of an electrical panel and electrical short. Okay, the other thing I would like to recommend that the Rainbow Women came up with is to increase your home insurance. Yes, your yearly payments will be bigger, but not significantly bigger for the added protection you'll get. And remember that no matter how much your house is insured for, they're not going to give you all of the money that your house is insured for. You're going to have to be able to count every bar of soap, every piece of furniture, every fork, every spoon, and they're not going to want to give it to you unless they absolutely have to. I'm sorry to say that that's the case, but they're there to protect you, but they're going to give you only what they have to give you. So anybody that I've talked to whose house burned down, they did not get the full amount that they were insured for. So that is the reason to increase your home insurance way beyond what you think, and get it to as high as they will accept, because they have a limit of how much they will allow you to increase it. Also, in terms of the garage, we want you to focus on being able to exit without the power on, because the garage door, most people's garage door is affected by power, the electrical power. So one of the things that we have been teaching other Rainbow Women is how to open their garage door manually. And one of the issues is you have to be able to do it while the cars are in the garage, which is a pretty tight space. I mean, people know that on red flag days, they're supposed to take their car and have it facing outward and not be in the garage. But what if it happens in the middle of the night and there's no warning? So that red little wire with the pull is what you pull, and then you have to be able to lift the garage door. And you need to test to make sure you can do it by yourself, and if you can't, you can add a handle that will help. And when there are other things you can do as well. But be sure and practice if you're going to do that, if you're not going to buy an automatic one, which I'm going to show you next. So the cost-effective fixes of your garage door. If your red rope is too short, we had a friend that we actually, during the 2017, Ann went over and helped her open the garage door because the rope was too short for our friend to reach. Get a longer cord, add a handle, and also if you spray the metal pieces at each end that the door glides on, it's so much easier because it's got silicone on it. And you really should do that as a kind of a maintenance thing a couple times a year. So one of the ways to avoid having to go through what I just discussed is to get a garage door with a battery backup. And actually, they don't look any different than the one that you have now. You just push the button and it opens because there is a battery backup in the unit. So that costs between $500 and $525, and it's definitely worth, especially if you live alone, it's worth investing in. So let's talk about eliminating the ember entry points. Let's see here. There are places that if you go around and you look at your garage door from the inside and you can see light from the outside, sun coming in, that's where the entry points are. So you want to find ways to fill those gaps with gaskets. You can't do it with caulk. I mean, it has to be something that can move. And it doesn't cost very much to have that done. If the bottom of your side door to the garage has light coming in it, then you need to have something put on the bottom of it so that embers can't come in there. And the other thing is if you have holes in your ceiling or wall, this happens a lot in garages where there's a plumber who brought in a line to the HVAC, the heating system, and there's a big gap there. You don't want, you're supposed to have a 1-hour firewall between the garage and the living space. So make sure any gaps like that are closed. You can do it with sheetrock, you can do it with metal, thin metal, and cut it and nail it on, but make sure it's really, really tight. These type of practices also keep you from having little rat and mouse infestations in the wall. So there are side benefits to doing this besides fire. So in terms of fire extinguishers, you should have one, not just one. We have one in our garage. We have one in our master bathroom at the other end of the house. We have one in the kitchen where there's a cooktop and fire could happen. And we have one in the guest bathroom, which is kind of the middle of the house. Think about where you might need something within 60 seconds to put out a fire. And you also want to buy the proper type of fire extinguishers. They come with different, you'll see A, B, and C on this fire extinguisher. You want to make sure you get one that will do, there are ones that will do all three of these things. And then you see on the right, it shows you, well, what do I do with this thing when I pick it up? You pull the pin, you aim at the base, you squeeze the trigger, and then you sweep left and right. All of these fire extinguishers have expiration dates and recharge dates. If you get good ones, which do more effective fire protection, they will have expiration and recharge dates. And there are companies around here that will recharge the good ones that you've bought so you don't have to keep buying new ones. Another thing we want to talk about is the gas shutoff. There is a gas shutoff tool that you'll see in the middle, which has a rectangular shaped hole. And you'll see on the left the shutoff valve that hole fits into. You should tie one of these tools with a wire to your gas meter so that if you had to turn it off when you were exiting for evacuation like we did in 2017, you want to be able to turn it off. And I wanted to show you the next one to show you what on and off is. Up, if it's up in line with the pipe, that means gas can flow through it. If you turn it sideways, it's off and gas cannot pass through it. The other thing, I always, with my barbecue, which has a automatic natural gas connection to it, I keep that in the off position except when I'm grilling, and then I turn it off again. I think that's just because of my nervousness about fire related to gas. So you want to make your home defensible in that 0 to 5 foot zone. Only you can control that. So it's also called the home ignition zone. So here are things that you need to think about in that 0 to 5 foot area. Most of us have area rugs outside the home, where you step on it to get the dirt off your feet as you come in. Many of those are flammable. I had cotton ones outside that I didn't even think about pulling in when I exited in 2017. Now I have a fire-resistant rubber mat. It's still attractive, and these are some other outdoor rugs that you can find that are fire-resistant. The other thing is we talked about metal furniture. Most metal furniture also has removable fabric cushions. So part of your routine for exiting to leave because of fire is to, you should have a list. We actually have created a list with the Rainbow Women of the different things you should do upon leaving. Let's say you've got 15 minutes, here are the things you should do. You've got 30 minutes, here are the things you should do. But this should be on your list to make sure that you're not leaving these seat cushions out there to catch the embers. Another thing that causes a lot of fire is plant debris. Dead leaves, bunches of dead leaves, they make fabulous kindling. That would be the first thing you would get to try to start a fire if you're out camping. So you don't want this around your house. So you want whoever is taking care of your landscaping, if it's you, making sure that this not only gets blown away from the house, but that you collect it and put it in your recycled debris box, your yard waste. Another thing that you want to think about is any fence that attaches to the house. Most people have gates and then a backyard fence, and those gates are often wood, and then there's a wood attachment to the house. You can change those gates at least and the attachment to metal. Some people have, who live on the golf course, have those golf course screens to keep them from being hit by a golf ball. Those are usually wood. You can change those to metal, and you want to make sure that the metal is small enough openings so a golf ball can't get through there. Mulch around homes. This is a way to show you, this is not Oakmont, but these are ways to show you that rock can be nicely integrated with plants, and so your house doesn't look denuded and looks like, it doesn't look like it's an evacuation zone. It looks like somebody lives there. But again, these are also plants that are not very fire prone. The other thing that I've seen a lot of around here in Oakmont is limbs from trees that are hanging right over the house. That's not good. You need to have at least a 6-foot clearance. And we're at Oakmont becoming a fire-wise community. It doesn't happen instantly, but we put our stake in the ground. And one of the things that inspectors are going to be looking at in the next year or so, when inspections are starting to be required, is that the tree limbs are at least 6 feet away from the roof. This only makes sense. The other thing is, Oakmont has come up with fire-prone plants, fire-resistant plants, and fire-prone plant lists, like ones that you can't have. You definitely want to get rid of juniper. A lot of people have rosemary because it grows really well here. You want to keep it cut back, and you want to make sure it's not close to the house, and you want to have any dead parts gone. There are other things here that you see that are really fire-prone. Manzanita, there are a lot of manzanitas around here. So here are some examples of fire-resistant plants that are also very attractive. And so these are things that you consider as you start to change things out. And you don't have to do it all at once, but whatever you do, start with the 0 to 5 foot area first. So in a wildfire, firefighters are looking for homes and buildings that are easier to protect. Think if you were a burglar, which house would you go to? Would you go to the one that had a lot of lights on at night, that had more protection, or would you go to the one that's dark and looks like it's easy to break into? So change the view from being a burglar to being a little flying fire ember. Where can I get in a high wind that can cause destruction? Your home wants to be the one that's defensible, so that the fire will go. I've seen homes like right next to each other where the one next door burned and the other house next to it, within not very far away, did not burn. You want to be that house that did not burn. And that's the end of my presentation. I look forward to answering questions, and I'm turning it back over to George.
Thank you so much, Iris. We're really looking forward to the audience questions. So Iris Talk is going to be Sunday, June 14th, and we'll be on live with a Q&A session at 11 a.m. And the details for that session will be on the Oakmont Sunday Symposium.org website. So see you then. That's it for now.